thanks for coming on the show. This is great. I'm glad to finally meet you. I've seen a lot of your stuff on LinkedIn, and I'm like, I have to interview this guy because I love his description. So tell me a little bit about yourself and your organization and what you're passionate about.
Cool. I'm Finn. I'm 24 from Germany. I run a little agency called Project 33. Kind of do content marketing, personal branding. Passionate about, I don't know, a bunch of things I would say. I'm still passionate about exploring. I love reading, so I try to spend a lot of time reading every day, a bunch of different things. I love the lessons that the vehicle of entrepreneurship is teaching me. Project 33 is my first company, so I'm just learning a lot about business in general, about myself through it. And then I like to tinker. I'm building a little app for myself on the side right now. And yeah, I recently got married, so I would say I'm
congratulations.
About,
that's great.
Thank you, sir. I would say I'm passionate about that. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Well, I love your description, like 22-year-old with no clue about life, but it sounds like you have a clue. So I don't know. I love that description. So it's totally drew me to you. And I thought, okay, I got to talk to this guy who says he has no clue, even though it appears he has many, many clues because he's doing really well.
Thank you. I mean, it's relatively speaking, like I have a slight clue about some things, but generally speaking, I have no clue. It actually reminded me, I was on another podcast last week and I shared this thing. So I dropped out of college in 2017 because I realized it wasn't for me and I was doing it for other people because it was expected of me. And I flew to New York and spent 6 months there, really with no plan of what I wanted to do, just, wanted to explore and meet people. And one of the things that I did is, and I had already been doing like social media stuff, I was growing on Instagram, I was growing on LinkedIn and had a following there. And I went to a lot of networking events and meetups in New York because I knew I needed to make friends. I needed to meet people, even if I didn't have a clue of what I wanted to, do with my life. I needed to know people. And so the thing that I always did when I went to networking events and, you meet people and you introduce each other and people ask, so what do you do? And I would always say nothing. Nothing. I just, I'm just a kid, no clue about life. Just, I'm just kind of randomly here, just wanted to show up. And in the beginning, I just said it because it just felt good. Because it was the truth, at least to me, it felt like closer to the truth than trying to pretend like I was doing something important.
Yeah.
And later I realized there was a great filter because there's two types of people that you meet when you introduce yourself that way. The first type of person immediately loses interest in you. The second they hear that, and you can kind of see them, their gaze kind of starts scanning the room for who's going to be the next person they can talk to and how they can get out of this conversation without sounding rude.
This guy can't do anything for me, so I don't want to talk to him anymore.
Oh. And then there's the second type of person who reacts in the opposite way, where they're like, what do you mean you don't know what you do? And like, how do you mean you just flew to New York? Like, tell me about that. That sort of reaction, kind of curiosity. And it's a great filter. I just ended up spending a lot of times with those people who continued the conversation. And so that kind of headline on LinkedIn does a similar thing, which I kind of realized post fact. It wasn't really a strategic move, but now looking back, it's interesting how these things work.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you think about it, you're kind of a contrarian, right? I mean, everybody else talks about what they know, what they can do, what they know, what they can do, what they know, what they can do, and you sort of stick out because you're like, well, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I just like, and if you think about it, you're kind of opening yourself up to the world, and you're opening yourself up to opportunities, and the opportunities just came to you, right?
Yeah.
But you did it without a plan, which is phenomenal. I love it. Did you really,
Yeah.
did you really think at, let's just see, you probably were thinking more along the lines of, I don't know, I can't put words in your mouth, but it's like, let's see what happens, right? I mean, you wanted to see what the universe could provide for you, right? And this is
When I
what ended up
said those
happening.
things at those networking events,
Yeah.
or yeah, I
Yeah. I mean,
guess.
or your whole thought of like you said, let's go back to what you said before. You said you
Yeah,
dropped out because you thought it was more for other people and not for you. I
yeah,
totally agree with that, because I think we're all expected to do these things, right?
yeah,
Your parents expect you to do something, your employer expects you to do the society expects you to do these things. And
yeah,
when you go
yeah.
the opposite direction, it's like people are like, what's wrong with that guy? Better knock him down.
Exactly.
He's like a nail is sticking out, or a sore thumb, right? So,
Yeah,
and you opened yourself up to the universe, and look at what happened. I mean, you got, all this
yeah,
popularity and everything. So that's very cool, that the way you did that. So what made you decide to go into this? I mean, you met a bunch of people in New York.
yeah,
I'm assuming that a bunch of people talked to you and said, hey, come work with me or whatever, because they probably loved your attitude.
yeah. I kind of stumbled into it. So when I dropped out of college, I knew that I didn't want to do college, but I didn't know what I wanted to do instead. I didn't have a
Right.
plan, but I knew and realized pretty quickly that no matter where I end up, whether I go into acting or entrepreneurship or comedy or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it's going to be,
Mm-hmm.
I could at least start right now of documenting that journey.
Right.
So that's when I created all of my social accounts. I actually did not have any of these accounts in 2017. I was actually on the opposite spectrum, where all of my friends that were spending a lot of time on Instagram and Snapchat, and I was completely off these platforms. But in that moment, I created all these accounts. I created a Twitter account, a Snapchat account, an Instagram account, a LinkedIn account, and I just started talking about what I was up to, who I was meeting, what my plans are, or what I was thinking about trying out, and being pretty open and transparent about it. And so turns out there's a lot of kids who are in college and feel kind of stuck
Yeah.
and don't feel like they're doing the thing that they really want to be doing, but they still do it because, there's peer pressure, there's pressure from their parents, etc. And so it resonated with a lot of people. And so I grew just from, talking about random things about my life.
Mm-hmm.
And, I just started experimenting, one kind of with my social and putting out content and seeing what resonates there and what people like. And then just with kind of what I was doing. So I worked as a fundraiser for a charity organization for 3 months. I then started volunteering at startup conferences. I felt like that was the easiest way to get in. So, those conferences sometimes are like 200 euros or 1,000 euro tickets, and I couldn't afford that. So I just volunteered, got in for free, and then could attend those keynotes and meet some people. And that's how I
Nice.
got kind of introduced into the startup scene. And then I realized, so that was all happening in Germany. And then when I dropped out of college, I moved back to my parents. And then I realized, I was probably 6 months into it after I had dropped out, I realized that I needed to get out of my bubble, because, no matter how ambitious or grandiose your ideas are, if you live with your parents,
Yeah.
it's like, your mom still washes your laundry, they do groceries for you. So I knew
But
that I needed
that's
to
kind
get
of a
out.
normal thing, though. I mean, amongst people your age, I've read a
Yeah.
lot of stories. I don't know what the reality is. Obviously, you know the reality more than I do. Is there a lot of kids living with their parents still?
I don't know. I think it depends also on the culture.
Mm.
I mean, I was studying actually in a different city. My parents were paying in Germany colleges for free, but obviously you still have to pay rent. So my parents
Yeah.
were supporting me through that. I was studying in a different city, but then when I dropped out, it just didn't make sense for me to stay in that city. So I moved back to my parents. But you kind of live under their rules, right? They're paying for your shit. Like, what are you gonna do?
Exactly.
So I
Wait, but your
realized
parents
that,
were
and
okay with you coming back, right? I mean, they weren't
yeah,
really
yeah,
annoyed that
they
you
were
dropped
they
out.
were really supportive in that. I think they didn't realize it, they didn't understand it, they also didn't understand this whole social media thing.
Right.
They were kind of thinking, what's he gonna do? Like, he's gonna go back to college, maybe study something different, maybe study at a different university. But
right.
Like, especially, both of my parents studies, all of my grandparents studied and went to college. My sister was in college. All of my friends from high school were in college. So, it was just this paradigm that didn't make sense.
Yeah.
And obviously I didn't have a good answer, right? Because I didn't know.
Yeah. But you knew it wasn't for you. You knew it wasn't for you.
Yeah. Well, and I also knew, like, I think, especially in Germany, it's much easier because you don't pay for college. So I knew that the upside was massive if I would figure something else out, and I would find something that I would actually be excited to do.
Right.
The downside was very limited because I could just go back to college 3 months later. Like, if this whole thing didn't work out and I'm like, oh shit, no, actually college is the right thing, then I just go back to college 6 months later. And, like, I lost maybe 6 months, but learned a lot of things. So it's a little different if, you have hundreds of thousands of dollars paying.
Yeah.
And I don't know how it works, but
that's really interesting.
Very easy.
That's really interesting because it's like here where you have to spend your money for college. There's a lot of pressure to stay in and finish and get all the way through because you spent all that money.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas there, you don't have the same amount of pressure. So in the countries where all of your education is paid for, then there's less pressure to have to do that. Plus, I'm assuming you can switch majors and stuff like that all the time, and you don't have to concern yourself with a huge debt that you have at the end of the day. Interesting.
Though, even from talking to people, the biggest one is actually just the mindset, because even in Germany, where there is no cost to college, it's almost unthinkable to drop out for the same kind of opportunity cost, or like the sunk cost fallacy, where they're like, well, I already studied for 2 years. If I drop out now, I might need to restart and I might lose these 2 years. Or people who finish college and they have their bachelor in whatever it is, and then they realize they don't want to work in that industry, but then they're like, well, I already spent 4 years studying this. Yeah, might as well start my career in this. Yeah, because otherwise those 4 years will have been wasted, when in reality, like, you can easily make the switch, and there's 40 years or whatever more of career ahead of you.
Oh, exactly. Anyway, I mean, there's so much pressure to do things quickly that everyone feels like, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that. You always have to be doing something. Like you have to. There has to be forward motion. It's like what I was saying. I don't know if you saw my latest comment on Mastery, the Robert Greene book. I don't know. Have you read that by any chance?
I have not. No.
Okay, so in that there's a chapter where he talks about people basically taking up all of their 20s to figure out what to do with their life. Right? There's no rush, because and he gives all these great examples of people who tried one thing and then they pivoted to something else, and then they ended up creating a whole completely unique position, which is like a mashup of all these things that they did before. And it's completely brand new thinking that they could only have done if they allowed themselves the time to figure it out instead of rushing into it. But I love the way that you're sort of like, let the opportunities come to you. So what made you decide to go into what you're doing now?
That's why I digress. So I realized that I needed to get out of, no, I apologize. I needed to get out of my house. Luckily, I had around 10,000 in savings from the fundraising job that I was doing. So I could move out, and I decided the craziest thing that I could do was flying to New York, cold turkey. So I did. I literally, I went on a walk, thought about it, had this inspired moment, was listening to a lot of, very exciting music. And I went home and literally in that moment booked a flight to New York, to fly out 5 days later. And
nice. And you had no plan?
No, I didn't know anyone. I knew 2 people through Instagram. We had been chatting a little bit back and forth. So one of them, I asked whether I could crash on his couch. So he was the person who picked me up at the airport, Adrian, and kind of gave me the first couch. and then, you know, I did couch surfing, used the app to like sleep on strangers' couches, because
Yeah.
otherwise,
I was
even
going to ask
with
you, how do you
10,000
like
in
that?
savings,
How do you like that app? Does it work well for you? Couch surfing?
I only used it in that one occasion
Okay.
for about a month or 2 month, 1.5 month or so.
Okay.
Had some creepy experiences. Yeah,
Yeah,
for
I've heard that
sure.
too.
Yeah, you have to really know what to look out for. I got lucky, obviously. I wouldn't have wanted to be a young girl my age sleeping at the same guy's apartment where it did end up.
Yeah.
Just to say that about it. But you know, it allowed me to stay there. I ended up staying for 6 months total in New York. And basically was just doing the same thing. I was documenting everything on social media, meeting a lot of people. I knew that I needed to make friends. So literally every day I went to one to three meetups and networking events. I just scheduled my whole calendar with going to these events, and I didn't care what it was. It was like photography meetup, crypto meetup, yoga in the park. Like I did not care what it was, and as long as there were people there. And then I just kind of used that filtering to find people that I actually vibe with and liked, and then followed up with them, grabbed coffee, and made a lot of friends very quickly. Actually, some of my best friends are still the ones that I made in New York.
Nice.
And so how Project 33 came about, to your actual question, is that I was just posting videos on LinkedIn, and I was relatively early. A friend of mine, Quentin Allums, got me on LinkedIn, and he said, you should do it. And that was just after Microsoft had bought LinkedIn and they introduced native video to LinkedIn. So before that, you couldn't post video files on LinkedIn, only like a link to a YouTube video. And so I posting videos and got some traction. And then independently from each other, two business owners approached me and said, hey, it's really cool what you do on LinkedIn with these videos. Can you do that for me? And I'll pay you money for it.
Wow.
And that completely blew my mind, that anyone would want to pay me money for something that I was doing for myself in my free time. But that's how kind of what now is Project 33 started. I teamed up with one of my friends who I met in New York, who was already a freelance copywriter at the time. So he kind of, you know, already knew like this all about proposals and contracts and invoicing and all of that stuff that I had no clue about. So we partnered up, co-founded it together. First two clients just came from, you know, referrals, introductions from our network. We lost those two clients because we had no clue what we were doing, and weren't able to really deliver. We didn't have a clear process. It was just all over the place, but we learned. I had to break up with my co-founder because we had very different ideas of how to grow it and our philosophy. So in the middle of 2019, had to restart again. And so now I'm the kind of sole founder. I took over the brand. We kind of made an agreement. I bought him out, and kind of rebuilt it since mid 2019 to now to, you know, 5 people. We're still tiny, but slowly, kind of organically trying to build something. Yeah. And we're still, you know, kind of switch obviously what we do, but we're still in the video marketing, social media, personal branding space.
So what kind of videos did you do initially to draw people to your brand?
Oh, anything. I was, you know, it's funny. Now looking back, obviously I cringe very hard looking at these videos.
You always look back to your first shows and go, oh my God, I can't believe I actually put that on social media.
It's good though. I think, you know, you always want to look back a year or 2 years and cringe. That means you've grown as a person. But yeah, I was literally talking about anything. You know, if I was meeting a person that I liked, I was, you know, making a video with them saying, hey, I just met this person and they're doing this and that, and it's really cool. Or, you know, if I had a random shower thought, or, you know, I was just shared. And it's you know, this idea that for some reason I had either naivety, this weird mix of naivete and arrogance, that people would give a shit. And weirdly enough, oftentimes when you think that, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, because you're so into it. you're sharing it, you're excited, you really do think that people care, and they did care. I mean, and that's the other thing about content, obviously, like obviously a lot of people, most people did not care, but the internet is so vast that the 100 or 1,000 who weirdly cared, those were the ones who stuck around, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah. But you're growing your audience every day, right? So you must be like, what kind of numbers do you have right now? I mean, you must have some crazy numbers.
I mean, it's not crazy. I think on LinkedIn I'm at 22,000. On Instagram I'm like 18,000. I used to do YouTube vlogs, daily vlogs too, so I have like 1,800 subscribers on YouTube, but haven't really been doing that game.
Is there a reason why you decided to focus on LinkedIn? Or you're not really focused on LinkedIn? You just do it everywhere anyway?
No, I mean, focus is definitely right now LinkedIn, and I would say it's because of my business. I mean, it's the best place for me to find customers for Project 33. Better than Instagram, I would also say, because LinkedIn is fun because there's still organic growth. On Instagram, it's very hard to grow organically. There's almost no organic discovery of content because it's just so saturated.
Yeah.
LinkedIn will also get to that point, but it's still at the point where you can, have 200 connections, never have posted something, put out a video, and it gets 800 views.
Yeah,
which is
I know, right?
more than what your connections are. And people don't realize it. That's insane, right? If you do the same thing on Instagram, you have 200 followers, you put out a video, it gets 20 views.
Yeah.
Because a percentage of the people who follow you will see it and no one else.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, Instagram is already very well saturated, I think, and it's almost impossible. Well, isn't it true? I mean, this is my theory now, is that when you're running a business nowadays, the business itself, the product, the service, whatever you're creating, is the most minor part of the entire thing. Getting the word out is the big part. It's like 99% of getting your business actually profitable is getting the word out about your business.
We have one of our customers, Philip, who has taught me so much. He talks about message market fit, and it's currently the framework that makes the most sense for me. It's basically the idea that, there's product market fit, which means that your product actually solves a problem or a need in the market. It's not just something that you came up with that you think would be cool, but nobody actually wants. And then there's message market fit of, can you communicate it in a way where that message resonates with people? So you can have product market fit, but if you could come up with the iPod, right? But if you the way that you explain it to people and you say, this is a radio but smaller or whatever, and people are like, that's not interesting, no thank you. The product might actually be interesting and great, but because you don't know how to say it in a way that it resonates with people, that there's an aha moment and they're like, oh, it's that, I want that, then it's not going to do anything for you. So I do think, you need to get the word out, but you also need to have message market fit. You need to have the right message to be able to clearly communicate what you do to the people who are your potential customers, that they have that aha moment and they realize what you do and they realize what problem you solve for them that they have. So
I love that. I love that concept, because if you think about it, message market fit is one of the reasons why a lot of products have failed, right? They could be useful, they could have a market, but because they weren't properly messaged, they never got out there. And if you think about it, that's kind of like what happened was, somebody like YouTube had a bunch of competitors at the same time, but because YouTube had the message market fit, they got out there. And it's the same for all these others. So like, here's the $100,000 question. How do you get message market fit? Do you just throw something out there and just keep pivoting till you hit something? Or, is there a secret formula to getting message market fit?
So I think there are a couple of ways. the kind of simplest, if you already have a starting point and you already have a business with customers, to interview them and ask them why they bought your product.
Right.
And it's surprising how often that is very disaligned with what you think you do.
Yeah.
So for our example, you know, I always, and I'm still learning, like I'm trying to figure this out, and it's,
that's because you have no clue, right?
Exactly. Exactly. But you know, like we sell it kind of as personal branding, what we do, right? But for example, Philip, this customer that I mentioned, he's like, I don't care about personal branding. I didn't buy you because of personal branding. I could care less whether it's my brand or the company brand or my co-founder's brand, or, you know, I wanted a content library. That was what was the value prop to him. And so the way to find message market fit is to just interview your, you know, most excited, happy customer, and actually have them explain why they bought your thing. What is the before and after? What were they doing before you came into their life? And what are they doing now that's better or more awesome now that you are in their lives? And then just use their exact words. And often what you realize, all these buzzwords that companies use in their marketing, end to end, and, you know, fully encrypted, or whatever the buzzword is, none of your customers actually uses these words. You know, they're going to say like, you know, I was trying to record a video and it took me 8 hours to script them and everything. And then you came into my life, and now I can just sit down, talk to someone for half an hour, and I have content for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And that's how you then explain it. You just tell people, what do you do? Well, you sit down with us for half an hour, you just chat a little bit, and then you have content for the next 2 weeks or whatever.
I love it.
You just say exactly what they say.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's kind of like testimonial. It's a bit like a testimonial, but a testimonial is more like, just tell me how awesome I am, right? Because that's what you see on websites. You see, oh, I'm so awesome. This guy's awesome. It's so awesome. But you don't talk about the problem that you've solved.
Exactly.
Right? That's what you have to talk about. So what do you do if you have no customers? What if you're like a startup and you have nobody yet?
I mean, I think that's a good question. I think one place to always start is maybe with yourself. So, well, that's at least with product market fit. So I'm building an app right now. And the reason why I'm building this app is because I want the app. You know, I'm its first user. I'm not building
you're building it for yourself.
Exactly.
Which is a lot of startups are just like that, right? They go, I see a problem for myself. I want to solve the problem for myself. So I'm going to build an app for myself. And there's probably other people who are like me who might want to use it too.
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. So that way you already know that you have product market fit. You have a case of N of 1, but chances are you are not so unique that you are literally the only person in the world who wants that product. So then you just need to find other people who are similar to you, and then just describe it in a way how you know, not how you think you need to describe it to someone, but how someone, like it's hard to say, like in a natural way, right? Because we kind of naturally tend towards using these buzzwords, you know, and it's often much better to just use descriptive language. So instead of saying, you know, for my app, it would be, you know, I could use buzzwords and say it's a, you know, it's a vault to keep all your reminders and send daily emails for those reminders to stay top of mind, or something like that. Or I could just say what it actually did to me, which is I used to collect all these little snippets about who I wanted to be in my Evernote notebook. And that was very messy because it was all over the place and not sorted, and I couldn't revisit them. And now I have one place where all of my reminders are. I can easily search them, and I have an easy discovery an easy way to discover all my reminders that I already wrote, right? And then someone who is in that situation where there is product market fit because they have a similar set of, they have little notes that they collect for themselves, they will understand that way better. So I think that's a very bad answer that I gave there, but, just start with yourself. And then I think I actually updated my, like with the reminders app, I have like 10 users right now who actually use the app, on a daily basis. And I just got those because I was posting about the app on LinkedIn and saying, hey, I'm building this. And then some people, they liked it, they checked it out, they stuck with it. And then one person sent me a message on LinkedIn saying, hey, I checked out your app. And just this morning, I was thinking, I wish there was this thing that would do X. And then she described what she wished existed. And that's exactly your app. And so I took that message and I just copy pasted that message to the tagline of what my app does.
I love it.
I just used her exact words to describe what this thing is. And then iteratively you can kind of refine it as you get more people to give you feedback like that. But that's unpaid. That's just a free user that I got through a post on LinkedIn. So I think that's the place to start.
I love it. I love the way that you're using sort of like other people's commentary and feedback and other things to sort of direct your pivoting. But you do it like, you don't just take every advice that comes at you. You pick and choose. You say, oh, this is what I want to do and this is what I not want to do, right? I mean, you're definitely filtering. And I love the description you had about going to networking events where people are like scanning the room to get away from you. That's happened to me so many times. It's just not funny. It's hilarious. But I love the fact that you're sort of like saying, looking at the people who are like, get excited and interested in being somebody like the way you are, sort of open to all these opportunities, because there's so few people who are out there that are like that. Everyone's so driven in the direction that they're in. They're not interested in seeing new opportunities, which is where I think innovation and creativity come from, right? If you're so focused on doing your thing and all these opportunities are coming at you, you're just going to let them bounce off you. It's like having, force shields up or something like that. And some of that stuff could be really, really good.
Yeah, no, I agree.
That's awesome. So your first videos were like whatever, but now you're doing videos for companies. I mean, what do you do? Do you have them pitch their product? Do you have them just, like you said, you have them just talk for a bit and then you post a video? I mean, what exactly comes out of these videos that you create?
Yeah. We now have a process. 2020 for me was all about building processes. And so we apply the same strategy to basically all content, and it's in the onboarding, they fill out a lot of questions. It's a long questionnaire, 48 questions, and it really digs deep into the company, their industry, the problem that they solve, the pain points of their customers. There are questions like, what keeps your right? Like those questions help us really understand the psychology of the people that they're trying to sell to. Because that's the hardest challenge with content. Like if you want to outsource content, you can't do it 100% fully because no one understands your business and your value prop and your customers better than you do. So if you just want to hand it off to an agency and say, go do it, just write some blog posts for us, it's going to be some random arbitrary stuff that they maybe come up with after Googling around for 3 hours and then, patch something together. But it's never going to be anything like interesting, thought-provoking, thought leadership style type of content. And so we extract these insights out of them. And then we structure the content basically around 3 main content pillars. The first one is subject matter expertise. Second one is company/culture. And then the third one is personal. And so subject matter expertise is anything that, your company is a subject matter expert in, right? For us, it would be about content marketing, personal branding, content creation. Those are kind of our subject matter expertise fields, right? For someone else, it might be healthcare. For someone else, it might be whatever it's going to be, whatever industry they're in. Then company culture is kind of, company updates, new people that they're hiring. Maybe they're moving to a new office. Maybe they're testing out a new feature right now. Maybe they're, just had an offsite with people and they want to just share the good vibes, their mission, their values, that sort of stuff. And then the last pillar, personal, and that's personal to the person. We extract that in the questionnaire too. So what do you do outside of work? Golfing, cooking, reading about history. What are these passion? For me, it would be my app that I'm building, right? Those sort of things. And so the percentage that we found works well is 50% subject matter expertise, and then 25% company/culture and 25% personal. So we structured in that way. And basically the way that we do it is we ask them questions. So the questionnaire helps us to come up with pointed questions that are actually relevant, but they have the insights, right? It kind of comes back to, we can't turn a founder into a thought leader who isn't already one.
Right.
So we pre-qualify for that, right? We need to work with a founder who has been in the industry for a couple of years, who has shown that they have a track record, that they've gotten good results for their clients, that they know what they're talking about. Because otherwise, if we work with someone who just started, who doesn't have any customers yet, they're in the figuring out phase, which is good, but they won't have the subject matter expertise. And so, yeah, we then just ask them questions around that. They give the answers. We record that whole thing. So we do it kind of similar to this podcast, where we just ask them questions like, hey, how did you get started with this company? Hey, how can people solve X?
Right.
And so you asked, do we do pitch videos? Basically, all videos are based around value, right? We wanna teach or inform people about something, right? Like, how can I actually posted about this today. The simplest content strategy is answering your prospects' questions. Right. So write down what your prospects, your qualified prospects, are actually asking you in the sales process. What do they want to know? Why do they come to you about? And then just answer those questions in your content.
Right.
And it's just leverage, right? Instead of having to answer the same question every time on every sales call, you just make a video about it, and then 1,000 people can watch this video.
Right. Instead of you having to say it to everybody. Well, the reason I was laughing earlier was because I had that exact same experience with the marketing company that I was working with. It's and then in the end, they said to me, oh, well, really, you need to create this content because you're the one who knows this. And I'm like, but I hired you to do it for me.
Yeah. You need the best of both worlds, right? Like, you need to have the subject matter expert. You need to extract the insights from them, and then you can have an agency or an in-house junior marketing person format it, right? They can edit the video. They can put that headline on there. They can, structure the copy to make it fit for the LinkedIn and Instagram algorithm. They can push the publish button on LinkedIn and YouTube and all of these different things. They can add the structure around it, but the insights need to come from the actual expert.
Right, right. So do you do the same thing for personal branding? Sorry, did you catch that?
Well, it is that, right? So we always do it around a founder. So we always work. So we work with B2B companies, usually between 10 to 50 employees. That to us kind of seems the right size, because too little and they're still figuring too many things out where they don't necessarily have that message market fit yet. They don't really know how to communicate what they do properly yet. And if they're too big, it's hard for us to get direct access to the founder, who is the subject matter expert. There's some intermediary, some brand director or head of marketing. And yeah, so we build around the founder. We ask the founder is the subject matter expert. And but then the content can be used, on the company website and on the company LinkedIn page and on the company YouTube channel. So so it's a kind of using the founder's brand and the founder's knowledge as a vehicle to do the content marketing for the entire organization. Very
cool. Very cool. Okay, so now it's time to think like a futurist. It's the year 2031, 10 years from now. Where will you be? What will you be doing?
I mean, I can give an answer. I have no clue.
Did you know what you were going to be doing 10 years ago? Now
Oh,
you
no,
didn't
no,
think
no,
you,
no, no.
there's no possible way you thought you'd be living in New York, right?
No, 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 no. So I mean, I like that. I think I hope I don't know what I'm going to be. I hope in 10 years, I don't know what I'm going to be doing in 10 years from then.
So you're
Um,
still going to be doing the same thing where you're not sure, like you're seeing where things take you.
the one thing that I am sure about is, the marriage thing.
Yes,
Like
definitely.
that, that's the one thing, with Project 33, with my app, with my, LinkedIn content and my Instagram content. I could wake up tomorrow and say, you know what, don't feel like it anymore. Let me try something else.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that. And I want to actually keep that option open to me. The marriage is the one thing where, if I wake up tomorrow and I'm like, nah, don't feel like it anymore, you know, then it's time to work it through rather than to move on. So
Right. So there's some consistency in your life, but a lot of it is like
exactly. And I
wavering.
think you know, I talk to a lot of people my age and younger, and they're completely baffled how I'm married. To me, it's the greatest anchor. I mean, I now can experiment and try around all these things, but there's this one thing that is for sure, and that kind of keeps me, level and anchored.
That's fantastic. I love it. So, is there anything else that you'd want to do? Like that you've done a lot of social media, you've done the content, you're creating videos. I mean, I'm assuming you're loving doing it this now, but you're probably going to get experiences where you're going to say, okay, I'm tired of this. I want to move on. Is there something else
Yeah.
in your future that you're thinking, like just little bits of it going, oh, maybe I'd like to try that?
Yeah, I think a lot of things. I want to try stand-up comedy.
Mm-hmm.
I want to try theater. I want to try writing a book.
Mm-hmm.
I want to try going into politics. I
I
want
love it.
to.
Unfortunately, you can't be
Uh,
president because you weren't
yeah,
born in America.
yeah. I don't know if that would be. I don't know if I would be suited for that kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I do want to try a lot of things. Also, what's very appealing to me is the product business. So, my agency is fun, but there's one thing about agency life, and a lot of people who have an agency, they talk about the same thing. What you
Yep.
produce is not your own.
Yep.
Right? We create all these videos and all these marketing strategies, and then you hand it off, and then someone else uses it, puts it on their website, and oftentimes you can't even say that you produce it because there's some sort of NDA or
Yep.
confidentiality, whatever that word is.
Exactly.
Um, and so the thing about the app that I'm building is so satisfying to just have my app on my phone. It's not even a physical thing, right? It's a software thing, but I can
Mm-hmm.
click on it and I can say, this is mine. Like I created this and I get to use it and you get to use it too, but it's still my product,
Right.
and there's just something about that's very, so, I want to grow it organically, but I wouldn't mind if this app thing turns into something bigger. I don't think I want to, try to grow it, artificially with some VC money or something like that, or maybe some other SaaS product, software product, app sort of thing. But the product business is also very interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, and you're a creator, right? So you want to see your creations out in the world, sort of
Yeah.
being used by people, and I love I love the concept there, and you're exactly right. I mean, if you and what the other thing, do you care so much about it, like saving you time as well? Like if you created an app, and people started using the app, and then you started monetizing it somehow, then you wouldn't personally have to put in hours,
Exactly.
because that's the other problem with agencies, right? It's
Yeah.
like I don't get paid unless I work. I want things to just make money for me in my sleep
Yeah.
while I
Yeah.
do whatever else I want, right? Travel the
Yeah.
world or whatever.
Yeah, and I mean the agencies also. I mean, the agency is partly that because I took myself out of the service delivery. So I built the processes, but now, my team does everything from, recording the videos, coming up with the topics, writing the copy, editing the videos. In the beginning, I used to do all of these things.
Yeah.
So now at least I can, if I can be gone for a week and everything keeps running. Eventually, it will deteriorate if you don't have someone constantly growing the thing and adding new customers and all that. But there's some flexibility around that. But obviously, if I want to scale this, I need to hire more people, right? That's how agency scales, more work power. And I like the idea of leverage, the beautiful, like, it's just crazy to me. There's, whether it's software products or info products where it's a one person business, and they wrote a book or they created an app, and it's just one person, and it's $1 million business, and it's a 90% or 70% profit margin because it's so scalable, and it just it works while they sleep, and that is very attractive, obviously, for many reasons.
Yeah. Well, are you connected with Elaine Pofeld?
No, I'm
not. Have you talked to her? Yeah. So
No.
I connected with her on LinkedIn. She actually wrote like the $1 million one person business. There's actually a book with that title on it. And I connected with her on LinkedIn, and we had a conversation. I haven't gotten her on my show yet, but she was basically profiling people who are like that. It's like one person, they create a bunch of info products or something, and then eventually, they get sales and revenues of excess of $1 million. So maybe I can connect you two guys together so you could talk. So that'd be really cool.
I'm gonna just take a note on, what was her name again?
Elaine Pofelt, Pofelt, I believe. But I can connect you guys through LinkedIn because she's one of my contacts.
Love it. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Very cool.
One of my favorite guys is Jack Butcher. I don't know if you know his stuff, but he has this kind of visualized value, almost empire now. Started with just an Instagram account and kind of grew organically and into hundreds of thousands of followers. And then he monetized on that from creating info products, teaching people how to do what he did, growing on social and how to visualize value. And it's now a over 1 million per year business, and growing rapidly. And I think his wife is helping him. So it's a 2 people thing, I guess. And I'm sure he has, some freelancers here and there doing the odd thing, but mostly it's just him, and it's all his, personal brand, and it's incredible.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing I wrote about a long time ago. Is I think the audience is the most important thing, right? It's like you can have a product, you can have all these things, but if you don't have an audience, and even if you build the audience before you build a product, because that's kind of what you did, right? You built an audience before you built a product, and then the product sort of came out of the audience because once you had the audience, you just said, what do you guys want? And you could see what they wanted, and you can leverage it. So that's why I say new aspiring startup entrepreneurs, they're all sitting in their basements writing code. And I'm like, no, get out, get out there.
Distribution first.
Yeah. Build your audience first, because you see these entrepreneurs that go from business, they could have failure after failure after failure, but as long as they still have that audience, when they find a product that clicks, suddenly, boom, they have an audience, and the product's successful. So I think having the audience first is really the most important. And I think you did it the absolute right way by starting the audience. And I just still love your spin. So it's awesome. I might ask you to do some videos for me as well.
It's one of the things one of the things that I say is, work on things you're excited about, build in public, and you'll be surprised what opportunities come your way. Project 33, as we talked about, happened in that way. There's another story that kind of happened the same way, which last year, I think, or in 2019, I started turning books into Instagram accounts. So I have a couple of favorite books, and I realized, as I think most other people, I learned through repetition. So I already knew that I would need to reread these books a couple of times to really internalize it, to really understand the lessons in depth. And I thought, what would be good for me if there's an Instagram account that would just post a snippet from the book every day. So that way I can kind of more organically reread the book in little, bite-sized pieces every single day.
I love
And
it.
so because it didn't existed, I built it. So I took 3 of my favorite books. I went through the entire book, kind of broke it down into some of my favorite snippets, which ended up being 50 or 80 or 100 different snippets, like, more than quotes, sometimes a sentence, sometimes 5 sentences, like little standalone snippets. Created a post for all of them, put it on there, and then, coded a little automation in Python to create an automation that would just randomly pick one of these snippets and post it to an Instagram account dedicated to that book. Just so that I could then follow that account and see those snippets on my Instagram feed every single day.
Yeah.
And I never had any intention of doing anything else with it except consuming them myself. 2 things happened. One of the accounts completely blew up. I turned the book, The Art of War, I don't know if you know it, this ancient,
I absolutely
book,
know it,
into an Instagram account, and it now has 90,000 followers, completely on autopilot. I have literally not touched the account in a year. I have not logged into it. I haven't maintained it. It's just running through the whatever 60 quotes on autocycle. And it somehow showed up on Explore and people started following it. And so it has 90,000 followers. I thought it would be interesting to monetize it by adding an Amazon affiliate link to that account to the book on Amazon, so that people could then buy the full book and I get a little thing. I didn't monetize it through that. People don't happen to buy it. I'm also not, promoting it. Maybe if I would post every day saying like, hey, get the book, maybe I would do something with it, but that's not generating anything, but that would have been the possibility.
Oh yeah.
The second thing that happened is I was proud about it. So I made a LinkedIn video about it, just saying, hey guys, here's this little side project that I did. There's 3 accounts. If you're interested, you can follow them on Instagram. Here are the links. I coded this in Python, yada, yada, yada. Just made a little video because I was just proud about it. And what happened is that video ended up getting 12,000 views. And as a result of that, 3 authors reached out to me on LinkedIn who I never talked to before, saying, this is really cool. Can you do it for my book? And I'll pay you money for it. And I was like, I
love it.
Never thought about it, but sure, I'll do it. So I ended up doing it for like 5 authors. They paid me a flat fee. I went through their book, turned it into snippets, set up the account, and that's it. I didn't scale it further because most authors are poor. But
and you said you wanted to write a book.
Well, it's
in addition to everything else you're doing. I get it.
but that's another example of like, just doing something for yourself, working on something that you're excited about, but then also putting it out into the world. And you cannot calculate with what angle people might take it or approach you from, right? I never thought about, I'm going to post this so that authors will see it and then I'll generate clients for this thing. Never even thought about it, but it just happened because it resonated with people and it solved the problem. And so I think just this kind of documenting, building it public, sharing what you're up to, sharing what you're building, sharing what you're excited about is really powerful. And as you say, you're building distribution, which you can always leverage. And then you also get feedback and you might stumble upon opportunities that you otherwise would have even been able to think of, to dream up. So it is powerful.
I love it. I love it. So thank you so much. This has been great. Very interesting. And I'm definitely going to contact you offline afterwards to see if you can do something for me as well, because I love your concepts. It's fantastic. So if somebody wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
LinkedIn, probably LinkedIn or Instagram. Finn Thormeier. It's a long name, but they can find me there. They can DM me, message me. I read all of my messages, obviously. So yeah. Or email finn@project33.io.
I love it. Fantastic. So congratulations again. I'm glad to hear that things are going well, and great talking with you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Talk to you later.